Yokai are supernatural creatures in Japanese horror, categorized as obake or bakemono. Obake means something with great ability or something with a strange shape. Bakemono is a term used to refer to ghosts, demons, or supernatural beings that can temporarily change their form. Bakemono is different from the spirits of the dead because they do not originate from the human realm. Bakemono often disguise themselves as humans but in unnatural or terrifying forms. They may have flat faces, no eyes, no nose, a wide mouth, or other unusual features. In legends, yokai generally possess supernatural powers that can harm humans, even kill them. One of the famous yokai is called Yamamba or Yama-uba. Sometimes she is also called the Mountain Grandmother. She is depicted as a friendly old woman who lives in the mountains. But don't be fooled by her gentle appearance, because Yamamba has a reputation as a dangerous figure and is often depicted as a cannibal. The origin of Yamamba is not very clear, but stories about her have existed since ancient times. Some legends connect her with nature and the supernatural powers that exist in the mountains. Physically, Yamamba is depicted with quite striking characteristics, including always being depicted as an old woman with long, tangled white hair. She also has a very wide mouth, even to her ears. Her body is thin with long arms and legs. Every time she appears, she wears ragged and dirty clothes in accordance with her habitat in the mountains. But there are also those who say that she can change shape at will. Among them is transforming into a beautiful woman and offering accommodation to tourists who are staying overnight in the middle of the mountain. That person will also be offered food and drink. After falling asleep, the person will be killed and eaten by Yamamba as fresh food. According to research, the origin of this myth is believed to have come from the tradition of abandoning grandmothers in the mountains and the folklore Ubasuteyama. It is told by the villagers that people who get lost in the mountains often become victims. Among them are traveling merchants who sell goods while riding oxen or horses, such as wooden bucket sellers or household goods traders. One of these stories is found in the folktale Ushikata Yamamba. Once there was a traveling merchant who was transporting his goods using an ox. His goods consisted of salted salmon. While passing through a mountain pass, the merchant was stopped by a Yamamba. The Yamamba threatened to kill the merchant if he didn't give her his fish. With just one bite, the fish were swallowed whole. Eventually, all the fish were eaten, and even the ox pulling the cart was devoured. In one instance, the merchant managed to escape before the Yamamba could eat him as well. There are many versions of the story that tell about Yamamba's cruelty. Among them is Yamamba's habit of stealing children and eating people who are lost in the forest. Another well-known story comes from Konjaku Monogatari. It is told that one morning, a Buddhist monk was found by local residents in a state of shock near the forest. He looked exhausted and very thirsty. His mouth kept repeating unclear words. After the residents gave him a drink and the monk began to look calm, the residents then asked about what he had experienced. He turned out to have been running non-stop all night from the forest. According to the monk's account, he was initially caught in a blizzard while climbing the mountain. Luckily, he passed a small hut that looked comfortable and met a friendly old woman. The old woman kindly offered the monk fire and food to warm himself up. After accepting the old woman's enticing offer, she gave him a strange warning. "Whatever happens, never look into the room behind this hut," the old woman said. Intrigued by this warning, the Buddhist monk ignored it and slowly approached the room located at the back of the hut. Peering through a crack in the door, he looked inside. The Buddhist monk was shocked and terrified. The room was full of corpses that looked like they had just been eaten by a monster. The monk then immediately ran out of the hut in panic. He realized that the old woman he had met was a creature commonly known as Yamamba by the locals. If he hadn't checked the back room, he might have become the next victim to be eaten in that hut. In another narrative, Yamamba is depicted as meting out punishment to a miserly and haughty man. In the tale of Kuwazunyobo, a wealthy man, notorious for his stinginess, longed for a wife who was industrious yet consumed little food. His aim was to preserve his wealth and ample rice supply. His wish was granted when he wed a beautiful woman who seemed to perfectly fit his exacting criteria. However, despite her seemingly meager appetite, his rice stores inexplicably dwindled. Driven by curiosity, he secretly followed his wife one night and was astonished to witness her transformation into the monstrous Yamamba. Hidden beneath her long hair, at the nape of her neck, was a second gaping maw. In a separate tale, Yamamba is portrayed as a devourer of a widow and her 3 children. Having consumed the mother, Yamamba assumed her guise and prepared to feast upon her offspring. Yet, the 2 elder siblings, upon witnessing the gruesome act, escaped by climbing a tree. From their arboreal refuge, they implored the heavens for deliverance. Their pleas were answered as a golden rope descended from the sky. Although she is a terrifying figure, Yamamba has also become an inspiration in various works of Japanese popular culture. She often appears in manga, anime, and video games. However, in these works, her appearance and character are often modified to suit the needs of the story.